Hi everybody, Matt Bull here, MD of Action Coach in Loughborough, here with another episode of the Business Spotlight series. And I'm delighted today to be joined by Andrew Wroot from MySpa UK. How are you today, Andrew?
Very good, thank you.
Excellent, excellent. So MySpa UK, often the business name is what it says on the tin, but please just tell everybody a little bit about the business and what it does.
So we're a hot tub and swim spa retailer. We've been in this industry for quite some time, but we specialize in sort of high-end luxury hot tubs and swim spas.
Awesome. Thank you, mate, very much. So about 14 years in business, you co-founded the business with your father.
That's right.
Tell us a little bit about how the business idea came about, and also often we hear about succession in businesses and not often the two generations starting it together. So just give us a little bit of a background into how the business started.
Well, both myself and my dad were kind of working in the industry. We started 25 years ago, both of us. My uncle had a bathroom business, and he set up hot tubs as a sideline way back in the day when you'd have to travel 250 miles to find another retailer that had a hot tub on display. It was that sort of sparse in those days. But that's how we kind of got into it. We both worked for him, and so I left to sort of go and work for one of the suppliers, and because hot tubs was my passion, I really sort of found it a fascinating industry. It was quite exciting for a young guy to be involved in installing these luxury items in some really nice properties. So I was really enthusiastic about it. And my dad joined me working for that company sort of a few years later. We were both working for the main brand that we were, which was Sundown Spas. And unfortunately, when the credit crunch hit in 2008, that hit our industry particularly hard. It was a luxury item that people just weren't spending money on. So it kind of forced our hand a little bit, because we were both made redundant as the company was wound up that we were working for. And so we basically had to sort of think on our feet. And my dad was close to retirement age, but not quite in a position to be able to retire. So that meant that I felt a responsibility to sort of start something that would help him sort of get to that stage. And so we started MySpa, and that was the sort of the rough beginning, if you like. And it's kind of grown from there. I think I was ready. I already had my own ideas about how I wanted to do it anyway, having run showrooms for the business that I worked for. I wanted to do things my way. And my dad was a really experienced engineer, so he was doing all the service and repairs for me at that time. And so it kind of made sense for us to start together and make a go of it.
Excellent. And how would you, I suppose, describe, as you reflect now, that the journey you've been on, especially being in business with your dad? Like, as you reflect now, what would you say the key sort of reflections are?
Christ, how tough it is to start a business from scratch. I mean, we literally had no money to throw at it. We had sort of £1,500 each redundancy money, but what we did have was an existing customer database, because we looked after our customers from that showroom really well. So it was very nerve-wracking. And the first thing that we did, I'll never forget, is that we sent out a sort of prepaid envelope with a survey in it to all those customers, just asking basically what sort of services they would want if we were to keep going and start on our own. And we got an 80% return rate in the first week. Wow. So that gave us a lot of confidence to sort of that there probably was something there. And it's just very tough to start a business from scratch like that, but challenging and rewarding in the same way. So pleased we did it.
And clearly, like a lot of entrepreneurs who start a business, you've seen a gap in the market or a different way of doing things. What is it that MySpa does, do you think, that differentiates you from other people in the industry?
I think it's for us. I'd always sort of been very conscious of the fact that, how do swimming pool retailers survive in the UK? And most of them have been going for sort of 40, 50 years, So it was a bit like, how do they make that work in this country with this climate? So and it's basically because they're mainly service-based. They're looking after their customers long-term in every aspect, and they're doing that in-house, sort of service, repairs, maintenance, that sort of thing, rather than just being solely reliant on retail. And I think the hot tub industry had become very much retail orientated. There was a lot of companies who didn't survive the credit crunch, who were just focused on selling hot tubs and swim spas. Whereas we'd always built our showroom around offering sort of cleaning and maintenance contracts and things like that. So there was a residual income and a residual sort of business, if you like, that was all important to us. And I think that's what made it work. So we set off with the idea that if they can make it work in the pool industry, then there's no reason why we can't if we follow the same model. Let's be a service-based business first and foremost. And we'll build the retail alongside it, but always have that focus on our existing customers rather than constantly just chasing the new ones. You have to do a bit of both, I think, to make it successful.
Yeah, amazing. And your business has now expanded. So Derby and Cheshire, is that?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Big steps for any business. We've got a nice business model, and then you're trying to replicate it. For our viewers watching this, what would you say were the key sort of lessons you learned in that part of the journey?
Still learning every day. That has brought about the biggest challenges, if you like. But we worked for a long time, sort of putting together the systems and processes and infrastructure, if you like, to sort of be able to handle multiple locations. That was always the goal. The main plan for us, once I got my teeth stuck into it, was I'm never going to be happy with just the one store. We need to grow this business. And in order to do that, what I don't want to do is for it to be solely reliant on me, for example, being on the shop floor, and because that will never work. You'll never be able to sort of spread yourself that thinly over 2 or even 3 sites. So we have to get everything sort of, even down to till systems that need to be able to work and sort of all sort of sync together, that sort of thing. There's a lot of infrastructure you need to put in place. And the other side of the business doesn't disappear, so you can't take your eye off anything really. So it took us a good sort of I think it was 9 years before we opened the second location, and it's still challenging because now you're relying on other people to do things the way you want them done and the way work. Yeah. There's sort of hand holding and training goes into that. So it sort of took me away from what I was used to doing. Personally, my role, when my dad retired, my wife was already in the business, but she took over managing the office side of the business at that time, which allowed me to focus more on training new salespeople and getting them to understand the products and the reason why we've chosen the products that we sell and how we want them to be sold. It's an ongoing process, that understanding of all the different challenges. It changes all the time, but yeah.
Brilliant. You mentioned there your wife's now involved in the business. A lot of our people that we work with and business owners watching this will work with their partners as well. How's that journey been for you, sort of bringing your wife into the business? And then I think the key challenge that who we speak to is getting the balance right. When are we in business and when are we at home? How have you found that?
Yeah, that is the hardest thing. It really is. You have to be honest, we're getting better at it. We've become more disciplined over time. It's a really big challenge. It really is, because it's constantly on your mind, and it's so easy when you're sort of sitting at home to sort of trigger thought processes but just a simple question like, did you respond to that email today? And that's not fair. You have to be really, really disciplined, because as soon as somebody starts thinking about that one thing, all the sort of the relaxation, the unwinding they've started is unraveled very quickly. And the last thing you should do is get into bed and say, oh, did you send that email? Did you speak to such and such today? That's just not fair. Yeah, you have to be really sort of disciplined with it, which we've learned to become. We weren't to begin with. Yeah. You kind of live it 24/7, but that's not healthy for anybody. And we've got 2 young kids as well. It's not fair on them. So we have to try really hard to sort of leave it at the door when you leave the office. That's it.
You mentioned the credit crunch back in 2008. How did COVID and the lockdown impact the business for you, Andy?
COVID lockdown, our industry absolutely boomed. We're one of the fortunate ones if you like. We were very, very nervous at the beginning. You know, I'll be honest. I thought that that was it. All those years of hard work would probably, you know, all result in, you know, it sort of crumbling. But it only took about I'd say it was about 6 or 7 days before all of a sudden messages started coming through Facebook. You know, can you get a hot tub? Have you got it? Just went berserk. You know, in May of 2020, we did literally about 75% of an annual turnover in a good year in 1 month. And it was just, if I'd had more people at that point, we would have been able to do a lot more as well. It was just, it was crazy. But that, you know, that brought a lot more money into the business, a lot more cash into the business, which allowed us to sort of all of a sudden put the plans of growth into effect. Yeah, and that was great. That we needed that cash injection at that point to be able to really start to move the business the way we wanted to go. But at the same time, it then brought around a lot of challenges, because I don't know any industry that can cope with what became a between 700% and 800% increase in business in such a short space of time. So then manufacturers were, you know, struggling to get hold of raw materials. They had their own challenges, you know, getting teams in to actually build product, and shipping became a nightmare. The cost of shipping went through the roof. Yeah. So it became challenge after challenge after challenge, which was very testing. And to be honest, the industry is still recovering from. You know, there's still fairly long lead times on a lot of products. Yeah, but an interesting time. And would I do it? Would I go through it again? Yeah, I would actually, because I'd do it a lot differently now.
Yeah, wow.
In a situation like that, I'd do it a lot differently.
Everything's a lesson, isn't it? Everything's a lesson.
Absolutely.
So as you look ahead, how do you see yourself growing as a business owner and a leader as your business grows? I mean, clearly you've got your amazing success so far, business growing, you know, you're scaling in different locations. How do you see yourself growing, Andy?
That's a good question. I've still got a lot to learn, a lot to master, if you like, within running the business. I'm very aware of my my own faults or deficiencies, you like. So there's still a lot to work on. I'm still ambitious, though. I very much want to keep growing. I still want to, you know, set out the goals we achieved right at the beginning, which was to be the largest multi-store retailer of hot tubs and swim spas in the UK. That's still very much my ambition, and we have now a really good platform to help make that work. But I also have done a lot of years of working too many hours and making too many sacrifices personally. And it's only over the last couple of years, really, since we started, I think the last 2 years, where I've been able to not find the time, because you can always find the time. You can always make the time if you really choose to do so. And a lot of people don't. And I didn't to begin with. It's being disciplined enough to take that time out for your own health and for the health of your people around you that you care about. And I want to get better still at that, to be honest. I know I've made a lot of sacrifices during my kids' early years, and I don't want to have any regrets. So I'm trying to make sure that, although my ambition is still very strong, I find the right balance for everybody in the family. That's really important to me. So that's what I got to work on.
Amazing. There'll be a lot of business owners watching this who maybe are in a startup phase or going through growing pains for whatever reason. You know, it's tough for a lot of businesses at the moment. What advice would you give them? You know, you've achieved some great success, as you said. It's not without its hard work. It's not without its sacrifice along the way. You know, we know that. Let's not sugarcoat what the journey that any business owner chooses to go on. But what advice would you give anybody who's maybe struggling at the moment, or is at that startup phase and just finding things a little bit tough?
Keep the faith, really, but find ways to work smarter, not harder. That's the biggest thing. I think all entrepreneurs in the early stages just will throw their entire lives at it, and some will have regrets over that. And I know I have a few, not so many, but I know I have a few. there are ways of working smarter and not so hard. You've just got to take the time to continually learn, read a lot of books. Basically, there's so much help out there, and working with people like yourself, really does make a massive difference. We worked with a business coach for 7 years, and we still do it on and off. So it's really important to us, that whole process. Learning to sort of put structure together that allows you to take time out to sort of stop, recover, and also then evaluate and sort of go again. Get used to the fact that it's kind of it's cyclical. You'll constantly go through cycles of pain, but also great moments of sense of achievement and happiness, which is important. But you've just got to trust it and back yourself to do it right. But structure is important.
Amazing. Andy, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on this episode of the Business Spotlight. Some amazing insights on what is an amazing journey so far. And to our viewers, I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Business Spotlight from Action Coach Loughborough. Many thanks.